Hey Noah, it's Dr. Scott. I have some feedback for you on your second essay, the visual analysis. There were four main criteria for the assignment, or four important criteria for the assignment, and they were a thesis statement that had an argument about two murals, and then you also provided the reasons in the thesis statement, that you used details throughout your essay from the murals to support your thesis statement, to support your argument. I'm also looking for how you've organized ideas and making sure that there's a reason you're going from paragraph to paragraph, and that reason is pretty plain to anybody reading the paper. And then finally, I'm looking at how you're integrating sources. And there's two of the criteria that just aren't addressed in this draft. I don't see any sources used. There's no list of works cited. And I don't see any in-text citations. I'm also not noticing much of an organization scheme here. I notice that you go from talking about one issue to another, but there's not really a reason why you're going from one to the other. And some feedback that I've provided other students is maybe thinking about what's the most effective method, or what's the most poignant message that they're getting across. You have this hard work, and you also have patriotism, and so you might kind of think of why go from one to the other. That reason needs to be a bit more obvious. If you know why you did that, that needs to be clear to your reader. So I'm going to go through from beginning to end. I'll touch on the two criteria that you have here, and that is thesis statement and your use of details. There's the other two criteria. You're going to have to kind of work those into your essay, being able to integrate sources and being able to organize your ideas. I can help you out with that, but that's up to you to work on and to ask me about. Okay, so the introduction, it's not a main criteria for this assignment, but you have a paper that it seems like it launches right into the thesis statement, and you can kind of ease your reader into the thesis statement, or ease us into the paper a little bit by kind of maybe even explaining, describing the town, describing the issue that the murals are taking up, or there's just a number of ways that you can kind of get across that you can kind of set up the paper instead of just kind of launching into a thesis statement. The thesis statement, I think it's this statement right here. And so the way that I read this, it's colors, figures, and positioning, and what they're wearing. And that's what your body paragraphs are going to be about. But it's not. It's about this, and it's about this. And the thing that's a little bit confusing to me is, all right, what's the overall message? That they want us to be proud of the military service in Portsmouth, Ohio, or our history of military service in Ohio, and they do that by showing hard work and patriotism. I think that's where you're going, but then I'm not sure what to do with this stuff down here. The paper's about a visual analysis, so it should kind of be what were the visual elements that are helping get across the idea of either pride, patriotism, or hard work. I think doing all three is a bit much. You could write several pages about that. I think just kind of focusing on they want us to feel pride in our military history in the town, or history of military service, and they do that through the use of colors, through the use of how they position characters and things like that. Okay, so getting into the body paragraphs, that thesis statement, that's a big deal, and that's something you definitely have to work on. The one thing I do like about your body paragraphs is that you talk about both murals in the body paragraphs. You don't have one paragraph that's about one mural, then another paragraph that's about another. I really like that you do a good job of talking about both. Smaller issue, you need captions for your images, and also this image is used later on, I think. I'm not certain of that. Let me take a quick look. Yeah, it's the same image there, so I'm not quite sure why you have that. Looks like you have it in two places. I think you just have one, call it figure 1, and then you can say refer to figure 1, or something like that. And there should be a short caption underneath it. You have a tendency in your writing to kind of get sidetracked by what you think about the issue, and your thoughts about patriotism and military service are not very relevant to this kind of paper. You're analyzing those murals. Now you're you can say that I think they did a great job of getting across an idea of patriotism or hard work or trying to inspire pride in people, and they did it through use of colors or what have you. But you talk quite a bit about like how much you think that this is a great country and how important you think service is, and I think that's all well and good, but that's a different kind of paper. So that kind of stuff needs to get cut out. It's because it's not actually helpful for the assignment. There are places, though, you do that in both the body paragraphs, but then you kind of snap out of it, and then you talk about colors and things like that. There are places where you are talking about details, but I'm not exactly sure how they're related to the main point of the paragraph. So if you're writing about hard work here, and I have questions about whether or not that's going to fly, you have to, I think, revise that thesis statement so it makes a little bit more sense, like how like what these paragraphs are supposed to be doing. So you'll say things like this, and then you don't really tell us like what the connection is to hard work. So if this paragraph's about hard work, then explain how this detail here relates to hard work. It's not very clear that it does. In this paragraph, that issue that I mentioned about kind of irrelevant discussion, like you got a ton of it here, and this isn't doing a visual analysis. Like, it's more of you kind of trying to persuade readers to think that the military is awesome, and it's not really working for this kind of assignment. What is working, though, is this kind of stuff back here. And I think you do a pretty good job of writing about specific details. Patriotism is a very broad topic. It's a very kind of vague topic. It might be what you base the entire paper over if you can define it and kind of nail it down a little bit more. But for me, you're doing a little bit better job talking about patriotism up here. Down here, it's kind of unclear to me like how some of these ideas are related to patriotism. There's some kind of confusing phrases and stuff like that, and you'll see my comments over here on the right-hand side. And then at the end here, I wrote you missing some sources, and organization needs explanation. You're supposed to use 2 sources. You can choose 2 of the 3 sources that we used for the assignment, or that we kind of reviewed. One was the Conrad piece about what murals teach people. The other one's the Andrew Feitz essay about Dafford's flood wall murals. And the other one is the documentary that we looked at. So let's talk grade for a little bit here. There's definitely needs to be a revision for this. It's not yet on the B contract. I'll show you where you're at on the rubric. So thesis statement, close, I think, because I think you have bits and pieces of it scattered throughout that first paragraph, but it needs to be clarified. Supporting details, I think you're close there. I'd say you're probably a little bit closer to this down here than you are to satisfactory at this point, because you got a lot of discussion that's not really relevant to the assignment. Organization and transitions, didn't see much of that, so there's not really kind of a reason why you've organized your ideas in the way that they have. It's not clear to me how you've done that. And then source integration, I didn't see you cite 2 sources just yet. And then close to satisfactory here, I think once you get a works cited page, once you get the captions in there, and I didn't check your semicolon, but once you get those things in there, I think you're going to be fine. All right, so that's a fair bit of work to do. I'm happy to give you some time tomorrow if you want to kind of chat with me about your questions. And your revision is going to be due a week from today, so that is October the 25th. All right, Noah, that's it for now. I'll talk to you soon.